You let me record this? Okay, you gonna sit down? You let me record this? No? You still your time? Okay. Gotta get this done, mate. We've got to let everyone know what we're doing. Yeah? And action. Shh. Come on, we've got to look professional. You don't look professional. Hank, come on. Just sit with me for 2 minutes. Just make it look like you're well trained, just for a second. Yeah? Did you know that 80% of all call-outs for boat assistance and a boat needing to be towed back in is predominantly due to dirty diesel, water in the fuel tanks and diesel bug? If you've been following us for a while, and certainly last season, you'll know that we came unstuck with this very issue ourselves. You guys were amazing. There were so many comments sharing your thoughts and tips and tricks to help us going forward, and a company that you guys recommended time and time again was a company called Marine-16. As it happens, this very same company, Marine-16, reached out to us and said, look, we've seen your video, we've seen you come unstuck, we love the fact that you've got some Marine-16 chemical products, but we've actually come up with a mechanical solution to this very problem. This amazing piece of British engineering that you can see on the screen in front of you now. This thing here is not a flux capacitor from Back to the Future. This is actually a diesel dipper, and what this is designed to do is take all of the dirty fuel, gunk, sludge, water, whatever happens to reside at the very bottom of your diesel tank, and it pulls it through and filters it out independent of the engine. Now, a lot of people say, well, you've got 2 fuel filters on your engine which kind of act as a polishing system anyway, so you shouldn't need any of this additional hardware, and that's a fair comment. However, if these engine filters have done their job properly and get blocked up to stop the engine getting full of crud, then that's all well and good. But it generally results in the engine not working and coming to a halt at the most inopportune of moments. And this is a problem that hopefully the diesel dipper is set to solve. So this video, we're really going to focus on our fuel, and let's get started. Let's go and meet the guys who designed, invented, and then were kind enough to drop it off to us. Let's go.
Let's go get them.
Okay, so I think they've just arrived. We're going to go meet Carla, who I believe is the head of marketing, and Peter, who is the owner of Marine-16. Let's go have a look.
Oh, thank you very much.
Hello.
I'm doing hands.
Do we fist bump? Do we fist bump? However you wanna. Hello. Hello. Peter. Hello. Carly, Dominic, Peter, and Carla. Yeah.
We
hello.
finally made it.
You did.
That was my fault. I went on a scenic route.
Right. Okay. It is a sturdy. It feels like a very sturdy bit.
And then one.
So after a very detailed look at our situation and through the engine bay, Peter gave us some step-by-step installation instructions for the diesel dipper, which were super easy to follow. Right, as is the case with basically everything we've ever done on this boat so far, the installation of this fine-looking piece of British ingenuity, so I love this, looks great, isn't going to be as straightforward as we initially thought, because the space at the bottom of our tank between the ball valve and our sail drive is quite small. And we can't quite get this tail, this hose tail in, which is a bit of a predicament. And so therefore, we're going to need to remove the ball valve, which then gives us enough clearance to get this screwed in, which is what we'll then feed to the diesel dipper from. But there's 200 litres of fuel that we also need to somehow figure out how to get out in order to take that valve off. That valve is obviously stopping it all from falling out the tank. So with no hose tail period on the end of that valve, we're going to have to try and wrestle a hose over the top of it, and then we're going to drain it out. And there's, as I say, nearly 200 litres. We've got a load of containers to put it in, and we're going to try and do that without making too much of a mess, which I think is probably an optimistic view. But here we are. Let me just shine a light in here. That's going to be another one of my jobs to do, I think, is to install some sort of permanent lighting in the engine bay. But just the other side of that blue tap, there where my finger's pointing, is the valve itself. And as I say, there's just not enough space. It's very confined. They've squeezed everything that they can in here. So let's see what we can do to get this out. Okay, so we're going to need to lift the carpet up. We're going to need to get the containers down into the bilge and then pour the fuel from the tanks and use gravity and a cycling effect to pull the fuel out. That is the plan. We've only got about 200 litres to empty, so it should be a piece of cake.
Yeah, good job. Mikhail gave us a lot of canisters.
That's good. So here are the canisters to help us dispose of all that diesel. Come on, mate. It's cold and wet out there. Come on. It's nice and warm in here. Come on, bedtime. Okay. Good job.
So we're trying to empty out the fuel of the lower fuel tank because we need to drain the tanks, as Dominic's probably already said. But there seems to be so much gunk in the bottom that just there's no fuel coming out. So
It's just loads of this slimy, nasty, horrendous stuff. It's just I just can't.
it's too tight in here, isn't it, to do anything?
I just can't get to it.
Oh, well done.
Oh. Is it coming?
Yep. So we've run a pipe, a clear one, which goes through, down there, into the jerry can. It stopped again.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh, it's coming. No, we've got more.
So far so good. Now we wait. I'm not sure how long this is actually going to take, but once they're empty we can install the new hose tail, get the dipper mounted, get it all wired up, teed in, and then hopefully get it up and running. We have taken out 40, 56, we've taken out like 100 litres and it says it's still close to full. So our fuel gauge has always been questionably accurate at best. So Carly just had a really good idea, which said, well look, why don't we, now we've taken a lot of fuel out, why don't we have a look on the fuel gauge, see where it sits roughly now, and then we can continue to remove the fuel and then note how much has come out of the tanks and try and get a clear indication of what means what on the fuel. Because we've got two tanks, and the fuel gauge, feeder, sender, I don't know, the thing that tells us the float, whatever it happens to be that's in there, is in the second tank, and so it's probably, if that's reading half full, that might mean because we're at something like quarter capacity. I don't know exactly. I didn't set it up, but yeah, may as well use this as an opportunity to crystallise our understanding of what our fuel gauge is trying to tell us. So now the fuel is very nearly drained, just the last strips are just working their way out now. I'm planning to actually put the diesel dipper here, so I'm going to mount it here. We're going to have a pipe to feed in, as well as feeding back out to the fuel return. All we're going to do is tee into the engine's fuel return that's already set up. And we've got a couple of wires, we've got a positive and negative just behind here for the 12-volt system, which again we're just going to feed through, and hopefully that'll be all we need to do. So hopefully the West won't be too complicated, and it will go up without a hitch. I've totally just jinxed myself now, haven't I? Alright, let's get to it. Something like this, perhaps. Alright, round about there. That looks good. Alright, so this is where it's going to be mounted. Gives us just enough room at the bottom here. Trying to find that balance, because you can't go too much higher, because then this is the just the outside of the boat. That's the cockpit there. So we've got to find that spot where we can both feed the fuel intake in and the return, as well as have enough space to have a little hose here where we're going to be able to drain off the excess water and whatever else is won't be in the system. You know what I mean. Alright, so I've just pulled the pipe off. There's no more fuel coming out. The tanks are officially empty. So now we need to take the old ball valve off and fit this hose tail. So that's the ball valve that's come out. That's all the way open. Again, there's a lot of crap in there. Got the hose tail on the end now, and put 2 Jubilee clips on there as well. Just double it up now that we don't actually have the shut-off valve. So I want to make sure that we're safe there, because the last thing we want with a really hot engine is contents of the fuel tank spilled out over it. That would be bad times. There you go, just on top of the tank there, we've got the that gigantic cog for the auto helm, and then just down here is an inspection hatch, which we're going to do our best to get into now. There seems to be a bit of a fuel leak around this area here where this sort of clay putty is. I'm not entirely sure what that's all about, but I'm going to take the whole thing apart, because obviously any sort of fuel leaking out onto a hot engine is a fire hazard. I've managed to get the top open on this inspection hatch, and we will momentarily be able to have a little look inside and see the extent of the dirt. Just trying to get this sort of metal putty off, which I'm assuming has definitely been put there to cover up some sort of leak. Yeah. Let's get this off before I have a closer inspection. Okay, this is as far as I can reach. So this tank is baffled. We're looking at one half of the tank there. I'm going to try and get some sort of rag in there and clean what I can. There really is. This is part of the reason. This is part of the argument for the diesel dipper. Really is that you just, you know, that tank is not coming out of there. It's sandwiched behind the engine, under the self-steering. You'd have to remove everything from the boat. You'd basically have to disassemble everything to get that tank out.
See you later.
Right, after an entire day of tackling the fuel system, cleaning out the tank, getting to every little bit that we could, my arms being scratched to shreds. We've got the baffles in the tank, which we can't get to the other side of them or underneath them, so there's only so much there we can do unless we cut multiple inspection hatches all over the place. I'm not sure how feasible that is, but we've got the tanks as clean as we can. All the fuel's gone. We're going to put clean fuel in. The sender, I've managed to figure out how to get it working. Now all I need to do is figure out how to get it into the old slot on the tank. This is the old gasket, so it's degrading literally in my hands. It's just crumbling, so that could possibly be something to do with the fuel leak that we had from the tank potentially. So we're going to make a new gasket, and then we're going to wrap this back up, put some PTFT tape on it, make it all nice and watertight, fuel tight, and the light is there. Well, it's there, it's in my face, but it is there. The light is at the end of the tunnel, so let's get these last few bits done. Also, that's the old holes for the old sender from God knows when.
Yeah.
Although I think Matt might have fit, I don't know. But it doesn't look like the sender, because this looks like it was retrofitted.
What, and that's the hole we're going to use for the new one as well?
Well, if these don't line up, then...
But they do line up.
Oh, they're very close. There's some orientations where they do and some where they don't. Which is weird, because they look like they're all spaced evenly. Also, just a second.
That
There
looks
we go.
pretty good.
That's the one, that's the best one. Day 2 of the tank. That's a lie actually. It's about day 30 of the tank if we add them all up. But we've got the new gasket on the bottom. I put a gasket underneath the new sender, and it's obviously it comes with a gasket as well, which is on the top. And then I've put all the screws through. They've all got a little bit of PTFD tape on top of them as well. I've probably gone, I'm trying to stop a fuel leak overkill, but hopefully that now does the job. So now the dipper is installed. The actual installation of the unit is quite easy actually. It's just 4 screws to mount it onto a bulkhead. I imagine some people would want to do this in the engine compartment, but we just wanted, you know, we're in here every day getting sort of bits and pieces out of the fridge and doing our washing. So again, we can just flick the dipper on for a bit and you know, continuously get any gunk off the bottom of the tank that may appear. But quite simply, you've got 4 screws that hold it on. You've got a negative and a positive live feed clip, or electricity clips, should I say. So you just feed those in. I'm sure that's not the technical name for them, but we have a fuel coming in from the bottom of the tank to here. And after the filtration process has happened, the return pipe goes here. And this just tees in to the fuel return line that we had anyway. So we have a fuse as well, just at the side of the dipper. And now I'm going to show you how loud it is. Now if you're sat right next to it like we are here, it is not the quietest machine in the world. However, I'm going to show you how quiet it is if you're literally just one room away down there. So let's have a little look. So the dipper is doing its business. There's some noise there. Let's not pretend there's not. But it is doing a vital job, and if we just head here, close that door. So again, you can hear it in the background, but if you had the engine running, if you were sort of motoring in sort of fairly calm waters, you could also have the diesel dipper going as well, circulating whatever happens to be in the bottom of the tank, water, crud, bug, and you know, you could even have the dipper on, you know, for half an hour or so whilst you go out, have a shower, grab some breakfast, pop to the shop. So there's a lot of situations where you could have this running, and you know, the noise that it makes really wouldn't be an issue at all. And for the peace of mind that it gives me, I'm happy to have it running. Okay, now the dipper's been running for a while, we'll shut that off. This bottle's probably a little bit overkill for this demonstration, but we also have to remember that we have just filled the tanks with clean fuel, and we did clean the tanks. So actually, for the purposes of this demonstration, this should be fairly clean. But just to really illustrate sort of how it works and sort of how straightforward it is. So we just pop this over the end and just turn this valve, and then the contents will be drained off. The fuel that's come out is fairly clean, as it should be, because we have cleaned the tanks and put new fuel in. So the true test of this will be later on in the season. We're going to come back to it and keep using it, and then, you know, if for any reason we get the reoccurrence of any water getting in, or any bug or gunk or anything developing, then hopefully we'll be able to see sort of how good of a job the dipper does keeping us out of trouble. That concludes the first instalment of our mitigating against future fuel problems, and obviously the installation of our diesel dipper. The next video, which should be out in a few days' time now, will feature me and Peter sitting down and having more of a long-form conversation. So if you're interested in Peter, in Marine-16, in the chemical approach they take to tackling this problem, as well as the dipper, how we came up with it, what makes a dipper different to perhaps other solutions out there, then make sure to join us for that video so you can join in the conversation. If you're not already subscribed, then make sure you don't miss it. Hit the subscribe button and the notifications tab. Just click that button now and it will let you know as soon as that video goes live. As for us, I mean, obviously the dipper, we're going to be using it throughout the season, as well as these products, these Marine-16 products, which, to be fair, this is how we got in contact, I suppose is how we got involved in the first place, because you guys recommended these yourself. The RNLI use these, and lots of you guys use them and swear by them. So hopefully this, combined with the efforts we've made to clean the system, combined with the dipper, anything at all we end up there will be sucked out and jettisoned off, and we hopefully will never have a problem again where the engine doesn't start, or certainly not because of fuel. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. Any questions you have, fire them away. We'll be in the comments to answer them for you, and failing that, we will see you next time. Bye for now. Back in are nearly all due to Hank.
Due to Hank.
Due to Hank. It's Hank's fault. Okay, welcome back. Now, did you know that 80% of all call-outs for assistant... Did you know that 80% of all call-outs for boats needing assistance, especially to be towed back in, is due to dirty diesel, fuel in the water lines, water in the...
I mean, that is a problem.
Yeah, they got fuel in their water lines and it's disgusting.